how quick these were going to come out as well. We expected it. Anivia, Malphite, and Alistar all banned straight out by Dignitas. Keeping real, really, what the Korean teams have been doing as well. It's exactly the same as happened at ECC Poland and Gamescom. They expected these bans to come through. Katarina, Skarner, and Draven being banned out by CLG. That shows they've been doing their homework against Dignitas.
I was talking with Krepo earlier, actually, and he said, I don't know how to play against Draven. We're going to ban it. He was he knows AmaCutiePie's practiced a lot of Draven, and he just hasn't had the practice against it. So they threw that ban specifically because Krepo and YellowPete haven't had experience against Draven's lane, and it's actually a bit of a fear ban there.
A bit of a fear ban, but Ezreal being picked up. This is something we've talked about.
This is fast.
Kid on IG, you know, that managed to go for it. Well, there you go. You've got Wicked on Irelia immediately. This is something we expected, but Krepo on Sona, I did not expect. We've been seeing him playing a lot of Leona lately, but he's gone with Sona.
Both these teams did spend time in Korea. Dignitas lost in the group stage, the craziest group stage actually. Azubu Frost and Najin Sword were both in that group to knock out Dignitas. And as these groups fly back and forth, a lot of these lessons that they've learned from the time in Korea, like the Alistar ban, or like the Ezreal picking it up very early, even Sona is now across the world, not so much of a secret, but one of the #1 supports you can pick early. Both these teams just really going with power picks back and forth.
It's something we may see Najin Sword using later on, which is Sona. They're very strong on that one as well. But let's get back to that later. It is going to be... I can't even see it on my screen. It is Gragas in there. Well, Gragas. Of course it is. It's Skara. This is something we've seen so often. You know, effectively playing it like Kassadin. Going back to ECC Poland, this is how Alex Itch was playing it. And we've seen Skara doing the exact same thing. Get that Death by Grasp in early, get the Abyssal Scepter, just blow people up.
Even in the regionals, I can remember he killed Chouster's Sona in 2 spells. He ulted and Q'd, he ulted him onto the barrel, and he didn't even need to DFG him, he just exploded him immediately. And these picks and bans coming in real fast. We have Froggen onto Orianna. Well, yeah, he will actually be playing Orianna, and the Maokai pick, which is going to be falling into Snoopé. And these are really happy picks. Wow, Darius,
Fast
Taric.
and furious.
That is a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that is very quick picking. And that top lane is immediately a scary thing. Darius, with Shyvana diving in, would obviously going to have exhaust. I've seen players, you know, playing it lately with Flash. Thinking back to you in the office, I got to be honest. Flash, but you know, Shyvana, very strong champion, made famous by Moscow 5. Some would say, you know, a lot before that, nobody was really using it before IEM Kiev, and suddenly everybody uses this. Shyvana now, very fast jungler. Who will be the final pick for CLG though? You can see Maokai going in there. Snoopy will be happy with that one. Froggen, I'm not so sure on Orianna. Has played it quite a few times, but honestly, I would never ever doubt what champion Froggen could play. But that case, definitely a different one. This is the first Kog'Maw of the tournament, as far as I'm aware.
Looking really quick down these team comps, actually, we see CLG.EU, do they have enough to protect the Kog'Maw, which is what you have to do in these scenarios. Orianna, very good at protecting AD carries. Maokai puts up that damage reduction. It's a little soft on the Kog'Maw protection, in all honesty, though. Darius can get onto Dunk, and Skara can pretty much kill him in a couple spells if he gets going. This is interesting here because Dignitas has been talking all this time about their secret strategy. If it's coming out here, you can't necessarily tell it from the picks, but if they have something going on, we're probably going to see it early.
Yeah, and this is the game they've got to do it against. CLG, you've got to think they're going to see the groups as a threat. At CLG.EU, they feel we've heard Skara. I've been on chat shows with Skara before, and he's talked about how strong he feels Najin Sword are. So he's going to feel, is that a game we can win, or do we have to sacrifice everything for the very first game of the day?
I think they're going all in right away. Dignitas coming in. We were talking with Odie earlier. They say every tournament they come in overly confident. This tournament they're in, was it optimistically confident or quietly confident? So they know what's at stake, and they know the quality of the teams in this tournament, so they would be very wise to go all in right from the start.
Yeah, so, I mean, as it is, looks like going to be loading into the game, and honestly, which way would you favor this one? CLG.EU coming into this one as, I guess, technically a #2 seed by a lot of votes accordingly, but I'm not sure about that one. Moscow 5 definitely up there. I mean, Azubu Frost, Jesus, just they showed it earlier. 3-0 in the group, looking very strong. But ladies and gentlemen, we have had the teams make their selections. We are about to get Group B underway. Are you guys ready to watch this game? All
right, the game is in, and both teams are just running out of their bases. Will there be anything sneaky level 1? CLG.EU so dedicated about saying level 1 is incredibly important and games can be decided on it. Everyone has their gimmick, their strategy, what they're doing level 1, and all 5 quickly of Dignitas running, and they get spotted by Wicked and place a ward at rates. That's actually a very standard early on play. Not much creative going on here. Actually, they have the Orianna ball down to Scout, and really they just have complete vision of each other. Nothing super sneaky happening this far.
Nothing super sneaky really going on so far, but you know, we've seen some crazy level 1 fights already in these previous matches. Are we expecting to see them in this one? I mean, honestly at the moment, CLG.EU definitely the kings of grinding the game out, I guess you could say, and Dignitas are also known to be the same thing.
Dignitas has been known to take things late and just pick late game team comps. A bit of an exception here, to be quite honest. Taric is not known as a late game support. He's all about roaming, crushing early, and winning lane. Darius as well, very snowball. He needs to win early, so Dignitas kind of going all in on CLG.EU here if you look at it from team comps. And really, standard start, Dominate starting near blue.
Dominate starting near blue. We are seeing them just cooking things off. That's going to be Dominate picking blue up. CLG.EU going, looking towards taking that red. You can see Orianna ball going out to start with, trying to push things out.
Oh, 4 members of CLG.EU.
Oh,
Skara trying to think
don't
about
go
looking.
for it.
Don't check, Skara.
Don't go for it, Skara. He's not going to go for it. It's all good. He's being sly. I mean, I think you barrel straight in there anyway. Is he going to have vision of it? No, he's completely backed away. So, let's talk about the lanes. You can see they're going to be setting up in a different formation, chat. We've heard about this. We've heard rumors about it. This is a new tactic.
So let's actually look at what's happening here. They have an AP bottom and a Darius top lane standard. What this really is it's a solo AD Ezreal early, and then Shyvana and Taric are going to be trying to roam around and kill the other jungler. However, CLG has been ready for counter jungling. They have a ward where I will dominate and Patoy are taking that red, so they're giving that up, and they're just going to try to play this out, I think.
Yeah, so I will dominate going for the invade. Looks like he's going to take the red away. We are looking down at the bottom lane though, or the mid lane I guess I should say. I'm so used to calling it the bottom lane, but you can see it is already reactionary from SK Gaming. You know, you can see immediately in that middle lane. I'm just looking at where Patoy's going to go. Are they going to try and level 1 dive on towards Wicked? Level 2 dive, I guess you could say.
We've seen TSM do this kind of in the past. They'll try to get behind the tower when it's level 3v1, but it's just not quite there yet. And you can see they're trying to counter roam a little bit. Crepo was in middle. They were probably expecting a 2v2 mid, but the Taric is literally just following Shyvana around Patoy, now working his way back into mid lane potentially, maybe trying to get level 2. This is going to be potentially very action-packed because when you have a roamer, these games used to happen over in Season 1. It's really action-packed. Everyone has to react everywhere. Otherwise, you're going to be down men. It's all about who has more people in what spot. And with all these early wards by CLG.EU, they seem very well prepared.
It does certainly do. And Snoop is just taking a walk around there. He's going to know the red's not there because he's taking it himself. As it is, we have a possible 3-man stack down that bottom lane. We do have Kog'Maw there alongside Skara, so they're 1v1 in it. Snoop is going to come around, but it's just awful timing because Patoy and Dominate were there, and immediately they are bought. They just caught it at the right split second. Otherwise, that could have been curtains for possibly Snoopy. Definitely walking in, just really lucky timing more than anything.
And let's be completely fair here. Patoy spent so much time roaming around. He's level 1 at 4 minutes. Everyone on CLG.EU has been getting experience, so this early gambit of the Taric roam counter jungle hasn't really granted them all that much. They got their red stolen, and they stole CLG.EU's red, so all of this early game gimmickry has actually not benefited them in the slightest.
And this is always the danger with cheese. We could call this cheese, I mean, it's more of a gimmick or whatever you want to call it. Snoopy currently down in that bottom lane, again, just keeping Yellow Pete happy and safe, really, if anything. Now, here's the anti-mage down there against Skara. Skara's Gragas. He really wants to, you know, just satisfy, trying to burst him down. And Yellow Pete actually, his pick's pretty clever here, because he's got a fair bit of range on Kog'Maw, and he's quite happy to sit on the turret and just farm this one up.
He's doing quite a good job just keeping his farm up. He's out-farming Skara 26-19, as well as having large limit. Here comes the big gank mid.
They go towards Greppo. Can they manage to make it count? No, the exhaust goes down. Greppo's going to surely get burnt. The Ignite's running. Is it going to be one last thing? Yes, he will be. First blood goes down. It's I'mACutiePie that picks it up, but I'mACutiePie is going to pay for it with his life. I Will Dominate also went down to Froggen. So despite the fact they went for the initial dive, it was a 2v1 exchange for CLG.EU.
That's big for CLG.EU, and that red buff coming down onto Froggen, you wouldn't think it, but the red buff on Orianna is lethal in lane. So much of her harass comes down to her auto attacks, and going up against Ezreal, the attack range is actually mesh.
Oh,
So
Wicked,
that's going to
you
be
are
close.
low.
And Wicked getting jumped on by Crumbs, but no. So close, so tight trading up there, and Maokai is running up. He needs to get out of there.
Yeah, and he had the 5 blood tick on him, and he just needed one more shot. Snoopy's going to maybe try and catch on. No! He stopped. Did he realize? Did he think he could get that twisted advance down? I'm not too sure whether he realized just how low it was. There was a whole creep wave of minions there, and he's happy to let Wicked farm that one up, which is actually dangerous now, because Crumbs is going to go back, and Wicked has got a double lane to farm freely.
Wicked actually getting a bit ahead of Crumbs in that lane, up 10 minion kills, up in experience. Crumbs is still level 4, whereas Wicked is halfway to level 6. Scar trying to catch out Krepo in the bottom lane with that body slam, but Yellow Pete's gonna send him right back. So early on, CLG doing a fantastic job repelling this Dignitas strategy.
And of course, I mean, you've got to think back. Their time in career, both teams would have taught them exactly how to react to this. You know, we talked about in the earlier key points how much they need to react to these types of crazy tactics. You know, they've been up against IG, they've been up against Taipei Assassins, they've been up against Zubu Frost. They have played the best in the world, I guess you could say, with Moscow 5 as well.
Top, hoping Wicked overcommits, and he misses the apprehend, and Wicked will just walk away.
He got that covered, don't worry. I was just glossing over that one, Jack.
Oh, good.
But yeah, I mean, like I say, they know how to react to this. They've been in these situations. They are 3-man stacking that top lane, and immediately Snoopy is reacting. He's going to come up there, and they're not going to be able to tower dive. I mean, tower diving in Irelia is a dangerous thing in itself, but to tower dive in Irelia with a Maokai in the distance is definitely death, and it's waiting to happen. Meanwhile, this mid lane, Krepo has been staying in the mid lane. You know, Froggen's returned to here, and he's actually doing a good job. Krepo has been roaming a little bit, not nowhere near as much as Patoy, but again, he's keeping the experience up because he's just sticking around long enough.
Here's the big thing about that matchup, though. You'd think that normally the support's there to allow the AD carry to farm, but Yellow Pete is nearly doubling Scar's score in the bottom lane minion-wise, so Krepo's going to go where he's needed because he does not need to help Yellow Pete from farming. This is working out fantastically for CLG.EU.
Yeah, when you compare it, technically the AP versus the AP, it's a huge difference. Orianna 56, 30 for Gragas. And at the moment you can see Yellow Pete quite happily just continuing to hammer down on Scar from range, and that's why I think they were expecting this, you know.
That Kog'Maw pick is really lethal up against Scar, at least for now, until Scar gets some burst, but he's not going to have the big burst unless he gets some more farm, because every time Kog'Maw turns on that Bioarcane Barrage, he just pushes Scar away from being able to get minion kills. And really, down the board, everyone's out farming except for Snoopy, and that's because he's been spending so much time counter-ganking.
Counter-ganking indeed, and honestly there's a 20 CS difference already on that top lane. Look at that, Crumbs has just returned to lane, he's already getting hammered down, and I think Wicked might be able to finish him off here. He just backed away from it, and already he's literally just walked back into that lane and down to a 3rd health, and Wicked completely healthy. And well, he sent him packing, which means he's just going to fall even further behind in CS.
Wicked still has that ignite for when he comes back. Crumbs in big trouble that lane. Still not very many items. And you can see Dignitas trying desperately. All these 3-man roams are coming around, but they're never running into accessible ganks. They're maybe trying to take down the first tower here. What's CLG.EU going to do to try to hold it?
Yeah, you can see that Maokai is just around there. Snoopy's going to linger on if there's distance. Now, he's got his ultimate if he needs it. Kog'Maw's going to be joining him, and you can see that Krepo's making his way through the jungle as well. And Snoopy wisely just wipes out the creep wave and doesn't get engaged on, and happily backs away from that one. As it is at the moment, though, Wicked is completely farming on his own. He's getting close to double the CS now of Crumbs, and that is a dangerous situation to be in.
CLG.EU, even though they haven't had practice against this specific strategy, have had to deal with many lane swaps against Chinese and Korean teams. So many of those are 2 guys top, and then they'll swap them around bottom, maybe run into mid occasionally. And this is really just a 1-1-1 roamer jungle rather than a 2-1-1 jungle swap. But either way, CLG.EU is using the same strategies to counter it. Wicked is making sure to get as much experience as possible, and whenever he has a 1v1 in that lane, he punishes since he knows he's ahead. And with that, it creates a lot of pressure for everyone else, and everyone else is really just holding strong. So overall, they're just out-golding, out-farming, and out-experiencing Dignitas right now. So when the roam arrives, it's not strong enough to do anything.
Yeah, and every time Patoy is just following, I will dominate like a lost dog at the moment, and there's nothing coming from it. That one attempt they've had at the gank has backfired, and they are 2-1 down. They're, well, nearly 2k gold down. Just 10 minutes gone in this game on already 80 CS to 55. That top lane definitely in favor of Wicked. And you know, we talked about it at the start, you know, how much Wicked needs to be shut down he is not being shut down. He's been let free on that top, on Irelia, the champion that he's probably most famous for.
He's right at home right here, just tanking the minions, keeping Crumbs out of experience range, and just look at that 85 to 57 total domination really when you look at that top lane. And CLG.EU keeping the wards on the jungle exits up as much as possible. So anytime Taric and I Will Dominate want to come out of their lane or come out of their jungle, they get seen. The only spot where there isn't a ward is here in bottom with Kog'Maw, but the lane's pushed up and they're really trying hard to force here. Scar missing us all.
They're desperately going on to win. Yellow Pete at the moment seems quite happy. He's just tanking it through. Now he's in trouble. He will certainly go down, and Skarner picks up the kill. It took all three of them, and it took them a long time, 11 minutes to make it finally work, but eventually it did. And is that going to be the turning point for Dignitas? Because CLG were in a farming heaven at the moment, and that is exactly what CLG be happy to do. They'll quite happily grind this one out, just farm it away. Froggen is causing Cutie problems in that mid lane.
And this is one of the dangers, laning an Ezreal up against Orianna. While ADs are okay solo laners, there is a reason the game has evolved to have the AP in the mid lane. Their harassment, their burst, and their dueling is generally higher than the AD carry early game, which is why you normally see him with supports. Scar getting interrupted, cannot get back to base from Snoopy being a little pest. That gank is still pretty good though. They caught up a lot of gold in that regard, and here they come top trying to bait Wicked.
Yeah, Wicked going aggressive, gets baited, and I think he may well go down. The dunk went through, the exhaust goes down. Patoy's surely going to get one more dazzle off in a moment. You saw the Ezreal ultimate just missing. The dazzle is not going to quite be up. Oh, and he just gets to the tower. I do not believe Wicked walked away from that one and just strolls off like a boss.
Using actually all the healing from his kit, those Transcendent Blade ults going out, heal off everything they see, and because of that, CLG.EU taking the dragon down, everyone on Dignitas' top. This is how CLG.EU keeps control. They're just getting the gold. They know if they reach late game, they're going to be okay against this roam strat.
Yeah, that is the first dragon of the game, picked up 12-23. CLG.EU, are they going to turn this into a push? Or are they going to turn it into a dive? Skarner down that bottom lane. Could well be the target. They're hanging in that tri-bush. They are coming to sneak around the side there. Krepo and Snoopy almost doing exactly what I Will Dominate and Patoy have been trying to do for Dignitas. They are coming around the back.
I don't think Scar knows this is coming.
I don't think he has any idea. There's the creep wave pushing up there. They're going to dive in. Twisted Advance will come out. It will be Snoopy that will take the initial tank, and it's going to be Yellow Pete to do the damage. The ultimate barrel coming out there, but is Snoopy going to go down to the turret? He wouldn't lose an Oracle. No, he flashed out perfectly from the tower, and he's got away from it. Ezreal now heading down south. They're going to have to back away, hit and run tactics. Skarner did a fantastic job to avoid that damage there. Oh, the Ezreal ultimate just passing by in front of them. Krepo could well go down. No, he's had to burn his flash as well. So from a 3-on-1 gank, that backfired horribly, but unfortunately for Dignitas, they're going to pick nothing up on the back of it.
Scar's explosive cast was really clutch there. He knocked Yellow Pete, who was the primary damage source on that gank, completely out of it, which just made them over-tank the tower with Snoopy and have to burn, really, I think it was all three of their flashes in that failed gank. So great job by Scar actually living through that, and now because of all three of them having a shot, they're able to invade and potentially take this blue buff away from Froggen.
Yeah, they should be able to take that blue buff, and you can see Cutie and Dominate both with the blue buff of their own at the moment. Dominate, Cutie Pie, you know, it's going to work well for him in the middle there, but Froggen is really dominating. He knows exactly where he's going to be. And while that was all happening, Grums had gone down south, and Wicked continued to farm. He's now 40 plus CS ahead, quite happily, just backing off, slowly building that Trinity Force, so he feels he can be aggressive. He's going for the Trinity Force first off.
The good thing for Dignitas and all of this is when they did get that two-man gank on Wicked, the global gold caught up because they took the tower for the dragon. So overall, that trade wasn't absolutely terrible for them. They looked like they started very slow because the roaming strat initially didn't work, but since then they've actually pulled off some pretty good moves. It seems it's a very well-practiced strategy. They're not panicking necessarily. I Will Dominate now has an Oracles. They're clearing up that ward in the bottom, but they really need that to set up. You can still see Patoy really just tag teaming it with I Will Dominate. It's almost like they have just an increased gank presence because Taric is a stun for I Will Dominate. They're camping this brush actually. They're hoping that they forget about it, and they're going to potentially try to turn something up here if Yellow Pete and Krepo shove.
So how dangerous will this be once we start getting into late game? You know, if Patoy continues to fall behind on the levels, he could be a lot weaker right now. It's level 6, it's not too bad, he's got the ultimate in there, but he will fall further and further behind because he's just going to be missing out on that experience.
To be fair though, Krepo has spent so much time trying to react to what Dignitas has done. He's level 6 as well. He doesn't even have boots yet. So he's actually went for the double gold per 10 items. He's waiting for late game. They're just trying to turn around. And here comes a dive top lane. Wicked and Snoopy just tanking tower hits.
Oh, but Snoopy might go down. He gets hooked in, but that's going to be the kill, and it was good exchange of tower damage there. And, well, Snoopy tried to get away from it. I think he did a flash, which lost the turret damage, and it turned it to Wicked. So that hook that pulled him in didn't lose out, and again, he got away with the Oracle. So very nicely played by CLG.EU at the moment. Going to continue pushing that top down tower.
Wicked and Snoopy, experts at taking tower aggro just duty one after the other. The tower does increasing damage the more it hits a target, so if you can take 3 or 4 hits with one guy, lose aggro and have it swap onto the other, you can really... They fold the 0 Crumbs on top of that tower, so nowhere is safe for him at this point.
Indeed, there is the turret to follow it up, so that's going to continue the gold advantage that CLG currently have. 3k now, 1-1 in turrets, and Froggen, well, unaided, pushing that mid turret, doesn't want to take a tank turret there at the moment, so Ezreal clearing that one out. Have a look at Irelia. I mean, how's he stacking up? He's gone bloodthirster early on.
Bottom lane, they're actually going really aggressive.
Yeah, very aggressive. Crescendo goes across. You can see that's going to be Krepo going down. Can they turn this into a couple of kills? So Yellow Pete, the exhaust is about to run out. He's got the turret damage as well. You can see Snoopy's going to have his twisted advance back available in a moment. The cooldown, no! Skarner's flashed out of it. I think he's going to go away. Remember, Snoopy just used his flash in that top lane, so he's not going to be able to pursue anymore.
They were all going for that tower, and then just at the snap of their fingers decided to dive past it. Knew how weak and slow Krepo was because of not having boots at the time of that game. Able to take the 3-3 kills, they'll be able to get that tower later. They're doing a pretty good job forcing the right kind of engagements here.
Yeah, but right now, we've talked about it in the past, 183 CS on Froggen. He is way ahead of anyone on Dignitas right now. He is just happy farming machine, you know. He'll quite happily stay in that lane and just farm up. You know, if you guys are going to continue playing this way, he'll just get stronger and stronger. There's the first death by Grasp for Skara. Amikudipie with that bloodthirst, like I mentioned earlier. Amikudipie actually ahead currently of Yellow Pete in farm, but honestly, it's still going to be a very close thing. But, you know, Wicked and Froggen, they are just continuing farming their merry way.
And you just look at how well they've been holding those solo lanes. It's actually kind of been Snoopy and Krepo who have tried to just deal with the Taric roam, and all Froggen and Wicked have done has just been farm. They're making sure to get as much as possible, and it shows. If you compare it against Skara, he'd be up 87 minion kills to him. If you compare it to his lane mate, Ezreal, he's still up 56. So he's just completely out-crushing that lane. They do get the bottom tower, so they are up in turrets now, but really, that farm from Orianna and Irelia is really going to be impactful when they do end up keeping up in team fighting.
Yeah, he's 1,500 gold ahead. He's nearly a needlessly large rod, complete item ahead, which is what Froggen is completely sporting at the moment, along with that Rod of Aegis. They're going to head themselves south. The Dragon is due in just a few moments, which is why CLG is starting to gather for it. You can see Shyvana will dominate, just lingering around there. Has got the Oracle this time, doesn't want to go too deep on this fight, not too early on. Yellow Pete continues to happily farm. He's going to join them. It's going to be Wicked that's going to start the fight off.
And Star was off getting the blue buff, so they're really just going to take this. Dignitas is going to try to counter by taking the tower. Yeah,
they're just going to counter it, take the turret. Froggen's just going to cut it off. Actually, an attempt at steal there didn't quite work out. Maokai picks it up, so that's Snoopy closing it out, and that will be a straight trade there.
That's really not bad for either team. Dignitas a bit of an advantage, but here comes the fight, CLG forcing.
And that's why I'm not too sure Wicked wanted to go for that one. That was a bad call from CLG.EU. They might be able to turn it into a couple of kills, but there's Crumbs getting the dunk down on Krepo. They are going to turn it back into a couple of kills, gets the double. Finally, the Yellow Pete does take down Crumbs, and that was a pretty even exchange, 2 for 2. Wicked went a little bit too deep.
He really wanted the force there. He'd been farming the whole time, and you can see he may have gotten a little bit impatient, thought they were much stronger than they were, because the whole game, all he's been doing is beating up on Crumbs' Darius, so he was fearless when he dove in. It got turned around on him fairly quickly. Crumbs is back in the game now with the 2 kills he picked up from that battle. Overall, this gold is still about 2,000 away. There's a lot of pressure Dignitas is about to apply on them because they've taken down all of the outer turrets, so now they can potentially invade CLG.EU's jungle a little bit stronger. And it's all about forcing DFG Scar, trying to take down Yellow Pete. They have to get the picks in the team fights. If CLG.EU protects Kog, they'll be alright. If Scar gets to him, we could see issues.
So Phantom Data being completed by Yellow Pete, so he's going to have the speed, not so much the damage. Obviously, usually the first item we are used to seeing on Kog'Maw, but I mean, that just goes surely down to Wicked. I mean, he does normally build a fairly tanky Irelia. He has got Trinity Force straight out here, straight off the bat. So maybe on the back of that, he was just, you know, I'm normally pretty tanky right now. Oh wait, I just got dunked on.
misjudged his skills a bit there. He looks to be working on an Aegis Legion or a Guardian Angel. They already have the Aegis on Snoopy. There's no Aegis yet on Dignitas, so if they can fight within Snoopy and within his ultimate, it's going to be a tall task for Dignitas to do enough damage to them. On top of that, Sona can add armored magic resist auras as well, so really, they can build a very tanky, bruisey team. It's just a matter of getting the fights in the right spots.
Yeah, Snoopy very cautiously had to back away from that one. He nearly got caught out of position. Walks back through the jungle. Now, late game teams, I mean, we are going to be looking at late game. I feel in this game,
Gotta stretch.
It's going to stretch it. 21 minutes gone. 5-5, all squared. How would you rate the two comps? I mean, Kog'Maw is just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger.
The thing is, though, Scar is going to get stronger and stronger as well, and I don't know if there's a point where Yellow Pete can withstand the burst from Gragas. I do have to give the edge to CLG.EU, though, just because Irelia is going to dive on
towards Snoopy. They managed to get straight in. They managed to catch him out there. There was the casket. Now Scar's had to flash away from that. Yellow Pete's going to continue putting in damage. Now Wicked's going to try and catch on. Hasn't really got anyone to engage on. CLG going to peel away from this one. Which way will they go? Ezreal Ultimate actually catching the whole team out, and the barrel catching on towards Crepo. CLG were trying to bait some engagement into that bush. Dignitas wisely not falling for it. They haven't backed away from this fight just yet, though. Wicked is still looking to try and catch onto anyone. You can see the heals coming out slowly. Fatoy trying to top off the rest of his team, but it is a desperate job to do. Crumbs immediately getting burst down. You can see Orianna damage, the poke coming out from Yellow Pete as well, continuing to just force him away. We are seeing Snoopy trying to catch around the side though, but I think both teams are going to have to back off from this one.
And this is kind of why CLG does so well when Wicked gets farmed. His disruption in teamfights, even though he's not directly protecting Yellow Pete's Kog'Maw, he's diving in and creating so much distraction that they don't have the resources to go for him. Scar needs to be sitting back. He's going to be getting attacked by Wicked in these fights. And here's a pull on a Snoopy. Might they start something? It's going to be tricky for him.
It's had to force the ultimate there, and the Orianna ball just making him defensive straight away. But CLG are slowly but surely poking through these turrets. They've taken the one down. They've taken half the health off the inner turret, and they are going to back away from this one. Wisely so. They do not want to go too deep. They feel they've done enough damage. The question is, will Dignitas react to this one? They could just pile straight up, 5-man up that mid lane. They are full health. And that's exactly what they're going to do. CLG need to react to this. They've gone to pick up that red buff. They've got to be careful they don't lose out on the turret. They got the creep wave coming up. It is only the siege minion that's there though. And that's surely not going to be enough. The rest of CLG will cut across, and they're going to have to back away from this one. Very much a tactical tit-for-tat game.
This is a lot of Dignitas trying to press, and CLG.EU holding them off fairly well. Dignitas is usually here on CLG.EU's side of the map, but they're not really gaining anything out of it. They're not stopping CLG from farming. They're not actually getting towers. They're not winning team fights. And that poke from Froggen, now with the death cap, is stopping them from getting into these battles. Very tricky for Dignitas here, forcing something maybe at the next Dragon, maybe if they try to force around Baron, but they're not actually strong enough to force fights because they're actually behind in this game, despite being pushed up.
Yeah, just one attack distance combo was stripping around about 800 hit points off Armacutie. That is less than ideal. Crepo's going to be careful. Crepo's going to walk straight into Crumbs here and actually turned around. I'm not even sure if he realized where he was, the danger he was in. Looks like CLG are going to try and force something on the blue buff. Dominate is there, Crumbs is there. There goes the saplings being thrown out, the barrel rolling through. Skarner just keeping the poke back. Does either team really want to engage in this one? They are both poking back and forth. The Ezreal ultimate's going to go across. Doesn't really do enough damage.
And honestly, a lot stronger right now. They should be able to take this.
Yeah, and they are. CLG just take it, walk away, and Dignitas did not want to have anything to do with that fight.
That was just a matter of them not wanting to deal with Orianna and Sona in small choke points. Anytime they wanted to funnel into that blue, they would have gotten caught out by even a Void Ooze from Kog'Maw on top of the Crescendo, on top of Orianna's ult. It would have been an absolute disaster. They had to give that away. Fighting them in really close quarters is a disaster. And with that, I believe the Dragon is probably coming up shortly, right, D-Man? And it should be just CLG.EU potentially taking another one.
Yeah, I don't think Dignitas are really... They are going to start catching up, so maybe they'll be in a position. Wicked has gone back to base, so he's just coming back from buy-in. He looks like possible Guardian Angel maybe coming out there. I would expect it.
That's what he's going for.
He's going to be the dive-happy bunny. The question is, will he have a dive buddy? Froggen's ball probably on top. Pull the ultimate, Orianna, that's what it's all about. CLG will take this Dragon quite happily for free, but are Dignitas going to respond to this one? No, they thought about going for that Baron. They've immediately spotted the wards in the Baron pit. They had to back away, cleared it out, went back about their business. So CLG.EU stretching that gold lead, 5,000, not a great deal. at the moment. Still 25 minutes gone. 3-2 in turrets. Dignitas with the slightest advantage, but this is just game 1 of Group B. This is going to be definitely a very tense affair, but there are still 2 games for these teams to go.
There's anything that CLG.EU does better than pretty much every team in the world, it's their patience. Because right now, they have a 5,000 gold advantage. Other teams might be trying to force around Baron, they might be trying to push into teams' towers and put themselves at risk. But CLG.EU knows that if they're patient, they're going to win. They're not getting out-farmed, they're still getting the important objectives, and when that's not happening, they're putting themselves in no risk whatsoever. They're extending their lead, but from their own side of the map, it's really quite a curious way of playing. It's something they pretty much mastered because they're forcing Dignitas, a team who is losing, to put themselves in bad situations. They're forcing Dignitas to go around Baron, Dignitas to invade CLG, and it's just not going to work out for them if CLG keeps playing it right.
Yeah, and sometimes I feel it's my fault because every time they find out I am casting the game, they say, we are going to break your voice again. It worked for Moscow 5 CLG. It could well work for this game. We'll see how it goes out. Hopefully not. There's a lot of games to go. CLG.EU in an interesting position. Dignitas got to be careful they don't get caught out in the jungle position. You can see the slow buff coming out. They have been split out here. Are they going to try and dive on towards Skarner? It looks like Wicked wants to engage on this one, forcing him to dash through the bush, but they could get enough with that creep wave to just get that poke on towards the turret. Yellow Pete's going to get a couple of shots off, and again, just chips off a chunk of health, and that is exactly what they're going to continue doing. The Ezreal ulti is going to clear out that wave. They can't continue pushing, and again, they back off and continue their merry dance. At
some point, Dignitas is going to get impatient and get tired of this tactic. They're going to try something, maybe a flash initiate from Crumbs, try to get an apprehend onto Yellow Pete. Maybe I Will Dominate will just dive in. But either way, CLG.EU seems like they're going to be ready for it. They're just controlling what Dignitas is doing here. They got maybe about half of that turret. They're not worried about getting that immediately because they're just really making sure they get the farm. Once Kog'Maw gets that Infinity Edge, Yellow Pete is going to be obliterating people coming through to him. And Skara actually hasn't been able to get that much out of this. He's 100 minion kills behind Froggen, still only with that Deathfire Grasp, whereas Froggen is actually 2,200 gold ahead of Skara, just AP build-wise. So that's Skara versus Froggen matchup. Despite the fact that they weren't in the same lane together, Froggen doing his farm duty and Skara actually lacking a bit.
Yeah, I mean 100 CS, that's a huge difference straight away. If we just look at the gold, you can see between the two, 9,500 gold compared to 7,200. It doesn't take a mathematician to realize that Skara is definitely in a disadvantage at the moment. That Deathfire Grasp and the Rod of the Ages definitely stacking up nicely. And honestly, Skara can't really get close enough to use that DFG right now.
He's going to be getting dove on by Wicked and Snoopé both on top of the Orianna ult for disruption, so it's really... He wants to assassinate Kog'Maw, but right now they have a strong enough wall to obliterate him, and they just reverie away. They knew that Dignitas was coming for them, and they're not letting them get the fights. They're doing such a good job continuing to farm this.
Yeah, well, Yellow Pete was a long way. He was down the bottom turret there, so I think they realized we've got a 4v5 advantage here. We want to push for it. Yellow Pete's desperately scrambled himself. He's now rejoined the team, and you can see Dignitas immediately saying, yeah, we're not really sure on that one. Yellow Pete using a great advantage with that ultimate, obviously getting full vision of Dignitas there, managing to catch on to Dominate and saying, you know what, you guys are well out of position.
Nice.
We will tank up this turret, no problem. Ball goes defensive on Wicked, and that is another turret, and that is an inner turret, which is the important one.
So much patience there. They saw Dignitas went down to the Baron. If they could catch a fight at the blue buff, we talked before, the Crescendo and Orianna will win it for them. So they knew Dignitas was going to be falling back to that top lane, which meant that that middle tower, which they had taken down before, was going to drop.
Dangerous, dangerous games here from Dignitas. CLG are going to come up. They're going to show themselves.
This is that impatience. They're potentially forcing an engagement here.
This could well be an engagement, but it is in the open. That's what they want. You can see Crumbs. He's going to hook it. He wants to get on Yellow Pete. Yellow Pete flashes away from it. The exhaust goes down. Gragas getting dropped out. He's going to be Skara going down instantly. Meanwhile, Crumbs is trying to cause some problems. Snoopy's got to be careful. He's trying to save it, but Yellow Pete has got I Will Dominate all over him, but he's got the support now coming around there. I'm a Cutipie's already gone down. Froggen's completely dropped in. That's Froggen getting the double kill, and CLG.EU absolutely wiping the floor with Dignitas there. 3 for 0, and a potential Baron coming out the back of it.
They can go for this. I Will Dominate too low. Patoy, his following buddy, also back in base. They have all 5 members up. They have a ton of damage. They should be able to take this one out. And that was just a huge example of Dignitas getting impatient at CLG, and CLG just knowing how to turn it around. They corner themselves between a tower and CLG.EU would just force something. They tried the flash apprehend at the start of the fight, it just didn't work out for them. And now CLG.EU, total control.
Total control. And, you know, we said, you know, they got themselves in a dangerous position. That impatience, they went up and they thought, you know what, we're going to force the fight. And it was CLG were like, well, okay, we'll take that action and we'll take you straight away. And honestly, Froggen was just happy to just plane up that. And they dove on Yellow Pete. He flashed away from it from the Darius ulti. It just couldn't lock him down. And then they just wasted too much time in it and just opened the world for Froggen to just completely obliterate the rest of the team. Lock it the Iron Solari being picked up by Krepo now. So Krepo being forever the support and really helping out. Let's just check out a replay and honestly just take us through what exactly happened in that replay.
This was just Crumbs getting the flash apprehend on top of that. They go watch Yellow Pete up top. I Will Dominate tries to face him. Remember, Scar just got killed by Wicked, and he just can't get to him. Yellow Pete kiting around so well. In the meantime, everyone on Dignitas gets taken out. Orianna and Wicked did work on everyone from Dignitas. They finish off. They really just split up Dignitas, completely crushed them in that fight, and they burned everything on the initiate. CLG finished it off.
And as we return to the game, you can see Dragon being picked up by CLG, continuing to just isolate every little resource on the map. CLG starting to push their advantage. Once they sense an advantage, they'll quite happily farm it out. Once they realize they've got an advantage, they will push it home, and they are doing just that. CLG.EU taking every advantage now with that Baron buff up. There isn't too long left on it. Is Javanta where I'm just trying to look at the timer on it. About actually 2 minutes left on it, I'd say. Judging by it, and they're going to try and continue pushing. I'm not sure Dignitas want to fight for this turret. I've got to be honest, once the next creep wave comes in, it is a siege creep wave that's going to be joining them.
These turrets are really hard to hold. Normally you have to wait when a team has Baron for your inhibitor turret. They can dive around the back very easily. If Snoopy wants to try to loop around, they're basically going to force Dignitas back. That's why Dignitas has that ward up behind their tower. Because if they see Snoopy coming around, they're either going to try to peel or just run straight away. CLG, you could honestly dive straight on top of this because Wicked still has a G up, and yep, Dignitas has to back away. No way they're strong enough to hold that.
They're seeing the shred coming out from Yellow Pete. Half the hit points already gone. It just was not worth fighting for. And CLG continue to drive home that advantage. All off the back, technically, I guess you could say, of Dignitas impatience. Krepo just helping out, putting the speed down, throwing a sapling at the red buff. Red buff being exchanged.
Look at this, Wicked actually building a BF sword on top of his Guardian Angel. Normally he'd go with something much tankier than that, but there's no one on Dignitas who's actually threatening him right now. He's going directly for Scar, taking him out. Crumbs, I Will Dominate, and I'm a Cutie trying to dive through, and it's just not working out for Dignitas, so he's able to get that BF sword and just do more damage.
Do you think he's going to go for Bloodthirster? I'm guessing that's what he's doing. I remember seeing Irelia with Bloodthirster before.
He could very well do Bloodthirster Irelia because he's got very generous AD ratios on his ultimate, in all honesty, and just pumping that out during a fight. High effective health. That's just your armored magic resist multiplied with your health, meaning how much damage it actually have to do to you.
He's got Black Cleaver.
Black Cleaver, apparently. Wicked does what he wants.
Wicked does what the hell he likes, and honestly that's going to help out so much for Yellow Pete. You know, once he gets that Black Cleaver, that armor shred going down there, Yellow Pete just like, yeah, that's my target. I will just kill that one, no problem. Thanks for lining it up for me. And honestly, CLG is going to continue driving through that top creep wave. They're just driving all the creep waves down at the moment, just pushing them all in. There's no super minions up at the moment. The Baron buff has only got around about a minute left on it, if that, I'd say about 10 seconds probably, if anything.
So coming with that Black Cleaver on Wicked, all he actually is doing in these fights is diving onto Scar directly. Scar has no armor, so the 45 potential shred from the Black Cleaver is actually really, really beneficial for his task in these team fights. Pushing on really hard. If they can get this inhibitor defending turret down, they're going to be golden, but with that Baron buff coming off soon, they have to be careful.
Yeah, you can see the minions getting hit by a shy of 900 there, actually 676, I'll tell a lie. Yellow Pete crits in. The question is, will CLG get stalled out like Moscow 5 did? Dignitas a long way back from this one, but their turret is untouched, and I think everybody learned from that game. And CLG, well, Yellow Pete's just going to hit that speed, that range, and he's just going to chip away on that turret and just burn it down. Actually, Crumb's getting a hook on Wicked there. Snoopy actually getting caught as well, and that's not really the damage you want. Crumbs is going to get taken down very low. Crumbs gets dropped, and Crescendo hits the whole team. Orianna ultimately pulling it in. Skarner getting dropped straight away. CLG just ripping through the entire Dignitas team here. Froggen's had to try and back away from that one, but it doesn't matter because there's so many damage dealers on CLG.EU right now. Yellow Pete just picking up the kills left, right, and center, and CLG.EU taking that first inhibitor. And again, it was Dignitas that actually initiated that fight.
They didn't want to get poked out of the tower. They thought if we're going to fight somewhere,
Surrender.
we need these towers. There's a surrender. Victory coming out for CLG.EU.
Well, what do you know? CLG.EU go 1-0 in this group. Dignitas, you know, they felt they had to pull something out. They tried a different strategy. We saw I Will Dominate with effectively a dog following him around all the lanes in the form of Patoy. I'm not too sure Patoy would appreciate being referred to as that. It just didn't work out. You know, if they would have got the kills early on, yes, it would work. Were CLG prepared for that?
It really felt like they were. They put very defensive wards in their jungle. They had a ward on their red buff very early on in the game. Snoopé spent an incredible amount of time just trying to counter gank and making sure they didn't get outnumbered anywhere. And just their lane picks, Orianna against Ezreal or Kog'Maw dealing up against Gragas, you could see they kind of smelled it coming. And they really had strong picks and strong strategy to get rid of that.